You ever notice how easy it is to glaze over something that you read in the Word of God and you just like pass it by and nothing sinks in? I was doing that today as I was studying Psalm 61 and I caught myself. And when I did that, behold, I discovered something that blew my mind. And I hope that I can blow your mind. Let's see. So, I'm just going to cover the first 4 verses of Psalm 61 in this video. Please stick around to the end of it. I think that you'll like it. I think that you'll find some value in it. And if you do, can you please hit the like button? Or punch it in its face. I don't care. So Psalm 61 is a Psalm of David. It's on the back of Psalm 60, obviously. And you know, David has just in Psalm 60 recounted the great victory where they slaughtered 40,000 of their enemy. They went down in Gaza and killed the Philistines. They went up to Syria, killed a bunch of Syrians, and then they went into Iraq and got it on with them too. So it's like in one major battle, King David and his army, with the strength of the Lord, went through and slaughtered a bunch of Hamas, Hezbollah, and ISIS. I love it. Psalm 60 is amazing. But Psalm 61, it's on the back of that. And David now goes a little bit softer, a little more, I would say, spiritual, a little deeper, I feel like. And he says, "Hear my cry, O God. Attend to my prayer. From the end of the earth, I will cry to you." David is saying, universally, across the entire planet, I will cry to you, God. God is not the God just of the Jews. He is the God of the entire earth and should be praised from the ends of the earth by every people. When my heart is overwhelmed, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. I've been overwhelmed at times. I bet you have too. When you get overwhelmed, say to God, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. For you have been a shelter for me, a strong tower from the enemy. David is recounting in his mind the battles, the fights, the fleeing from his enemies. And every single time, God has been his shelter, his refuge, and his strong tower, his fortress. Then he says something that you can quickly glaze over and completely screw yourself over. He says, "I will abide in your tabernacle forever. I will trust in the shelter of your wings." I want to focus on what he says there. When he says, "I will abide in your tabernacle forever." Because I think that that is a phrase that we see and we go, okay, David wants to spend forever in heaven with God. I do too. Sure. But is that what it really means? It does not. It means something extremely profound, something dangerous. Let me show you. David is recalling, remembering Moses' experience with God in the tabernacle. Back in Exodus 33, it says, Moses ended up pitching his tent outside the camp of the Israelites. So it was whenever Moses went out to the tabernacle that all the people rose and each man stood at his tent door and watched Moses until he had gone into the tabernacle. So everybody's got their eyes focused on Moses as he is going to meet with God. And it came to pass when Moses entered the tabernacle that the pillar of cloud descended and stood at the door of the tabernacle. Imagine this fiery, cloudish pillar coming down at the door of the tabernacle. And all the people in the land are looking at that and they're worshiping God as they watch their man Moses go meet God. So the Lord spoke to Moses face to face, as a man speaks to his friend. That's what David's talking about. David is saying, God, I will dwell in your tabernacle forever. And like Moses, when I'm in the tabernacle, your pillar of cloud and fire will be present And you and I will be in there talking face to face as a man speaks to his friend. Can you imagine? I mean, I don't think we really can imagine the intimacy, the closeness, the almost physical contact that we will share with God one day. And Moses desires that. You and I should be desiring that. And I don't think that this is like a new thing that is apart from anything else that we should understand about Christ. Because when Jesus is at his trial, it's not in Luke, I think it's in Matthew. Stand by. No, it's in, yeah. Matthew 26. Jesus is questioned by the high priest at his trial. He says, I put you under oath by the living God. Tell us if you are the Christ, the Son of God. Jesus said to him, it is as you said. Nevertheless, I say to you, hereafter you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the power and coming on the clouds of heaven. When Jesus says he's coming on the clouds of heaven, I think that we make a mistake in an image of just clouds and Jesus coming on them, like clouds that you would see in the atmosphere today. I think that's a mistake. I think the clouds that we should be imagining is this cloud-like pillar of fire that comes down from heaven, where Moses speaks to Jesus Christ face to face. That is what Jesus is talking about. Jesus was the one with Moses. Jesus is the one that David says, I will dwell in your tabernacle forever. And Jesus is the one that will return like that on the clouds of heaven and shock the entire universe. I hope you enjoyed today. We'll do Psalm 61 again. Semper Fi, Day of Battle out.